The biggest trade we've had in the NBA for a while is the James Harden trade. We haven't seen anything that big for quite some time, and we probably won't see anything that big for a long time again. But that doesn't mean there's not some stars that might be on the move here soon. There's a few names swirling around the league that, might be available before the trade deadline this year. There are 5 NBA players who I think should be on the lookout for possibly being traded in the near future. Before we get into the 5 guys that I think could be traded next, if you could drop a like in today's video and subscribe to the channel, that would be greatly appreciated. Now let's get into it. Those 5 players are Andre Drummond, Bradley Beal, Ben Simmons, Victor Oladipo, and Zach LaVine. I'm going to break down those 5 players and tell you why I think they might be on the way out pretty soon. The first one we're going to start with is Victor Oladipo. So obviously Victor Oladipo was part of the James Harden trade where he ended up in Houston. Harden went to the Nets and Karis LeVert went to the Pacers. There was obviously other things going around, but those are the 3 big pieces involved. And Victor Oladipo found himself on the Houston Rockets when there was rumors this summer or this offseason, which I guess technically wasn't this summer, but there was these rumors where Victor Oladipo didn't want to be in Indiana, and he was supposedly asking teams if he could come play with them during the bubble, which I don't know if there's truth to that or not, but it seemed clear that Victor Oladipo just didn't want to be in Indiana. And there was one place in particular that he supposedly wanted to be. And Kevin O'Connor even talked about this, saying that there's still people around the league that believe that Victor Oladipo hopes to find himself up or over in Miami before not too long. He's on an expiring deal, so would it be worth the Houston Rockets to trade Victor Oladipo to Miami and try and recoup some of that value? Because he could just outright go sign somewhere else this offseason. After this season's done, he is an unrestricted free agent. He is free to sign anywhere, and there's literally nothing the Rockets can do about it. So if they're scared that he's going to do that, why not trade him before this year's trade deadline and get something back for him? Maybe you don't get a lot, but getting something is better than getting nothing. Get some draft picks. Get a young player. Do something so you're not completely lost if Victor Oladipo leaves in free agency. The next person we're going to talk about is Bradley Beal. Now, Bradley Beal signed a 2-year contract extension with the Washington Wizards not too long ago. And, it didn't really make sense because people were questioning if Bradley Beal really wanted to be in Washington. Recently, there was a deal made where John Wall ended up going from Washington to Houston in exchange for Russell Westbrook. And people thought that might help the Wizards, but so far the Wizards haven't looked that good. They've had a bunch of games postponed because of everything going on in the league, and now they're sitting in a spot where it's like they're still not good. Bradley Beal is 27 years old. He's playing absolutely amazing, and it's still not enough for them to win games. He's got 2 years left in his deal before he's an unrestricted free agent in the offseason of 2023. Why not, if you're the Wizards, go full rebuild? Just go complete rebuild mode, trade away Bradley Beal, try and get a young player on a cheaper contract, try and get some draft picks, try and recoup some value and just rebuild. Because Bradley Beal might be demanding a trade soon anyways. And I don't know if you're the Wizards if you trade Bradley Beal without him demanding a trade. I don't think you really think about that. If you got him locked up for 2 more years, you at least play out this season and next season. And then if he asks for a trade in like the last year of his contract, you do it. But I think even now, if he asks for a trade right now with over 2 years left in his contract, I think you just got to do it. Because it's clear that he's not going to be happy long-term anyway. So even if you do try and build some pieces around him, he's already made up his mind that he doesn't want to be there. And if he's going to be an unrestricted free agent, you might as well recoup some of that value. And you're going to get a lot back for him if he still has 2 years plus the rest of this year on his contract. So Bradley Beal's a name that I would definitely watch out for just because the Wizards don't seem like they're in a great position. They have some really intriguing young pieces when you talk about like Thomas Bryant, but he's hurt for the rest of the year, so that kind of puts a damper on things. But they also have Rui Hachimura, Davis Bertans. They also have Denny Avdia, who they just drafted this year. Like, they have some players, but you gotta really show some progress. Otherwise, Bradley Beal might be wanting out. And he hasn't said anything about that whatsoever, but it's just rumors going around the league that that's a definite possibility. The next player I want to talk about is Zach LaVine. So Zach LaVine is in a tough spot. His team is not very good, but he's amazing. Zach LaVine is one of the best scorers in the entire league, and he puts the Bulls on his back seemingly every night, and he's pretty much the only reason that they are in any of the games that they're in. LaVine is nearly 26 years old, and he only has one season left on his contract after this year. So he could seemingly be looking to ask for a trade pretty soon. Do I think he's going to do that? I don't really know. They got a brand new coach, and they got some young pieces in like Patrick Williams and Kobe White, Wendell Carter Jr., Lauri Markkanen. Like they have pieces around him that if growth continues, like the Bulls aren't in a terrible spot. They're just not very good right now. So it's like, is it worth Zach LaVine asking for a trade, trying to find a better place to play? I don't know. From all accounts, it sounds like he likes playing in Chicago. Obviously, he had some turmoil with the old head coach in Jim Boylan, but now Billy Donovan's there. I don't know exactly how he feels about him, but I'm sure it's nowhere near how bad he felt towards, Jim Boylan. So, like, Zach LaVine, I don't think he asks for a trade anytime soon, and I don't think the Bulls look to trade him at all because he's on only $19.5 million contract. But next year, if they're scared that he's going to leave in free agency in 2022, they might try and sell him high at the trade deadline next season or before next season and try and recoup some value so he doesn't leave. But who knows if he's going to leave? I don't necessarily think that he's on the way out. I like Zach LaVine. He's one of my favorite players in the league. I don't see him asking for a trade. But the Bulls got to show some growth. Otherwise, he could be looking elsewhere pretty soon. The fourth player I want to talk about is Andre Drummond. So Andre Drummond plays for the Cleveland Cavaliers, and they're a fun team. Like, they play super hard every night. There's no easy games when you're talking about going up against the Cavs. But the thing about Drummond is he's on the last year of his contract. He's 28 years old, and he's unrestricted free agent this offseason. Obviously, he did accept that player option to stay in Cleveland this year. But Cleveland just made a trade. They were also part of that James Harden deal, and they got Jarrett Allen for pretty much pennies on the dollar. So is Jarrett Allen the long-term solution for you at center because he's on a cheaper contract? Possibly, and that means Drummond possibly could be on his way out. Now, I don't know necessarily who could trade for Drummond. Maybe like you could find a way to trade him to the Celtics for Kemba Walker. I'm not entirely sure if Drummond fits into the traded player exception from Gordon Hayward that Boston has. I think his contract may be a little bit too big, but I don't know that for sure. But the thing is, like, Boston would have to throw in some assets to even get that to happen. So maybe Kemba Walker could be the guy you trade for him. I don't know. They have a lot of guards in Cleveland, but maybe there's a 3-team deal to be had somewhere. I'm not entirely sure. But what I am sure about is that Drummond could possibly just leave this offseason if he's like, you know what, Jarrett Allen's here. Like, I might not get the playing time I want. Let me go get my money elsewhere. That's a possibility. I don't know if that's his mindset. I don't know if Cleveland's planning on keeping Drummond long term. I've heard rumors that JaVale McGee might be the center they're trying to get rid of right now. Either way, there's options there for Drummond, and it might be worth him asking for a trade, or it might even be worth the Cavaliers trading him and just trying to recoup some value because obviously Drummond is on the last year of his deal. And the last player I wanted to talk about is Ben Simmons. Now, Ben Simmons has been a guy that's been linked to trades all across the league. I've talked about Ben Simmons coming to Minnesota in a hypothetical trade. There's been talks of Ben Simmons going elsewhere in hypothetical trades. And here's the situation with Ben Simmons. The 76ers are good. Joel Embiid is playing really good basketball, and they are winning games. The problem is Ben Simmons' output offensively and his role offensively has changed so much on this team, and he's not producing in that way. He's still one of the best defenders in the league. And the 76ers don't have to trade him whatsoever because they're already good with him. But the problem comes in the fact that Ben Simmons was convinced he was getting traded to Houston so much that I'm pretty sure his agent told him he was getting traded to Houston. That's not good. If he already lost all his confidence in, or if he knows that the organization lost all their confidence in him, why would he want to stay there? It might be better for him and the organization because of this debacle to just say, you know what, you can get traded, we will trade you somewhere, and we'll get something back. Because it's obvious that you found out we pretty much gave up on you because we were going to trade you for Harden. And I'm not saying that they necessarily completely gave up on Ben Simmons. They know how good Ben Simmons is. And it's not giving up on him to trade for James Harden, who is a better player than Simmons. But, like, the fact that the deal was pretty much already done, kind of, Ben Simmons could lose a lot of trust for the organization that way. And that would suck as a player to basically be told, like, oh, you're about to be traded. and then not get traded. Now you're stuck in the locker room with these guys, these coaches, these players, and the front office that basically pretty much already had you packing to Houston for James Harden. But I don't know. Also, you could find a better fitting piece than Ben Simmons in the point guard role, that can score a little bit more and do a little bit more on the offensive side of the ball. But you're not going to find another point guard that plays defense like Ben Simmons. But I would beware of him getting traded pretty soon as well. He's on a good contract. He has a ton of value across the league. And the 76ers could really try and get a really, really good player that fits perfectly and trying to make a push for the championship. Plus, with the Nets already seemingly locking up the Eastern Conference Finals, maybe even the Finals from the East, 76ers need to do something to compete with that. And I'm not saying they have to do something this year, but you know what? Getting the most value out of Ben Simmons isn't a bad idea. So those are the 5 people I think are most likely to be traded next. Now, I'm not saying any of them are for sure going to get traded, and I'm not saying any of them for sure need to be traded because they're in such bad situations. I'm just trying to show the really big idea of who could possibly be traded and the reasons why I think they could be traded. Yes, I totally get it. Some of these guys are on good teams like Ben Simmons. Victor Oladipo is in a decent situation, but there's just things that possibly could happen. I'm not saying I'm not saying I have any sort of inside knowledge on this whatsoever. This is from me just raiding around the league, reading all the tea leaves, watching the basketball that's being played, and just thinking of the teams that could make a move for these players and if these players could be asking out soon. You never know, though. The NBA is crazy, and things happen that you never expect to happen. Who would have thought last year that James Harden would be asking for a trade? Not really anybody. You thought James Harden might be smart to ask for a trade, but you never really knew if he would ask for a trade. But anyways, those are just my ideas. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Maybe I missed somebody. Maybe you think somebody has no chance of being traded whatsoever. Totally, your opinion is totally valid as well. Hope you guys can respect my opinion. I appreciate you all for watching. If you like these NBA talk videos, let me know in the comment section below because I'm having fun with these for sure. These are a blast. And you know what? I want to do more NBA content. I appreciate you all. Hit that subscribe button. Drop a like on today's video, and I will see you in the next one. Peace out.